everyone. Today we are continuing our culture series for Lifehouse Community Church. We've looked at being united, we've looked at looking for the good, and today we're looking at dreaming big. There's various well-known people that have mentioned about dreams or have had dreams. The first one comes to mind is Martin Luther King. I have a dream. I bet that has come across your mind many a times. Band Aid released a song. What was it called? Do they know it's Christmas before your time? Come on, Chris. Because they had a dream to see the famine wiped out in Ethiopia, that there'd no longer be a famine in Ethiopia. They had a dream to combat that. The Beatles, definitely before your time, Chris, they dreamt that music would inspire music. Any Beatle fans? Anyone around when the Beatles were here? Oh, okay. Some of them are going, who's the Beatles? There was a song, Every Little Dream Will Do, from the musical. Joseph, yeah. There's been many, many missionaries that have had dreams and have gone to various places. Mother Teresa had a dream. She obeyed God and she went. There's many other people that we could mention. They're just a few that came to mind. In 1964, one man began quietly buying up land in central Florida for what he would only term as his Florida project. The project was a complete mystery, and he set up and used other company names in order to keep it a secret. He bought around 27,000 acres of land. And it was actually marshland. Not even the greatest of land, but marshland. Because he had a dream of building something exceptional. In October 1971, just 7 years later, the doors of Walt Disney World Resort in Florida opened and continue to be the world's largest pleasure resort. Walt Disney was the man who dreamed that dream, who began to buy that land all those years ago. But in 1966, a few years before it had opened, he died. Walt's wife attended the opening ceremony with Walt's brother Roy, and Roy turned to Lillian at the ceremony and said, "I wish Walt had lived to see this." Lost my place, sorry. Without hesitation, Lillian said, "He did, Roy." Walt Disney didn't need to see Disney World come to being, although I'm sure he would have loved to have seen it, but he'd already dreamed it. He'd already seen it before it had even opened. Dreams and visions have enormous amount of power, both in the natural and the spiritual. Vision is important. If you don't have vision, you will end up heading nowhere. It's the same with our spiritual lives. We need to have vision of where we're going. It's a bit like turning the sat-nav on. typing in that destination, and even to the point where Google Maps, there are other providers, says you're there and you think, no, I'm not. This isn't where I'm going to be. There's a vision still to get to where you want to get. You might be able to see it. Or sometimes you think, I don't need Google Maps. I can see it. I reckon it's just over there somewhere. I'm just going to head in that direction. Anyone done that? Yeah. There's vision. You want to get somewhere. You want to go somewhere. Dreams and visions have enormous amount of power. Sorry, my notes jumped. We're going to look at the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, chapters 37 to 50. We're not going to read all those chapters, don't worry. I'll give you a little synopsis of the story just so we know what happens. Joseph was born. His father was Jacob. His mother was Rachel. He's seen by his father as being the favorite. He's given a coat of many colors. He's the only son to be given that robe. He's hated by all his brothers. He has dreams of sheaves of grain bowing down to him. His rose up and his brothers bowed down. He dreams of the sun and moon and 11 stars bowing down to him. His brothers then plot to kill him, but instead he's sold into slavery. One of his brothers pleads with the others, don't kill him, let's throw him in that cistern. And then he's sold into slavery. He's bought by Potiphar, who's one of Pharaoh's chief people, and he's bought to run his whole household. Potiphar's wife then decides that she would like to take an interest in Joseph, let's put it that way, and Joseph's having none of it. And Potiphar's wife instead decides to make up lies about him. Joseph's then thrown in prison, and he's living his life in prison. He ends up interpreting dreams. He ends up becoming ruler of Egypt. He had a dream right at the start. He might not have handled it quite in the right way. I don't know if your brother or your sister would have come to you and how you would have responded if you said, you're going to bow down to me. He might not have handled it in the right way, but he had a dream. A God-given dream, not just any dream. It's not like me dreaming that Middlesbrough might win the Premiership Football League. Never going to happen, maybe. This was a God-given dream that was given to him. And I want to look at three things. This is part of our culture series. This is how we want to live. This is how we want to outwork our life as Lifehouse Community Church. We want to dream big. We want to dream very big. As Chris said, I like the future. I like dreaming. I like seeing things. I believe it's a gift that God's given me. God gave me a dream probably a decade ago now. He gave me a dream that on a map I saw Kidlington and I saw Bicester and I saw Banbury. And I saw the three places connected together and become a triangle. I saw that triangle become a sail that then was connected to a boat This boat was put on the ocean. It was the most magnificent day. The sun was shining, and the wind came and filled these sails. And this boat sailed off to the east. That was a God-given dream that God gave to me. We've responded to that in the forming of Lifehouse Community Church. We were in Kidlington. Sadly, we're not. God spoke about closing Kidlington for a season. You know, one day we will be back in Kidlington. One day we will. But we've joined together. We became one church, Kidlington, Bicester and Banbury, because God gave us a dream. God connected us together. God said, you're better together than on your own. He said, I want you to take the land. I want you to take the Cherwell Valley. And I want you to bring hope to it. Wants us to take Jesus' hope into this valley. We want to be people who listen to God, to what he's doing next. And we want to prepare in obedience for what he's got. You know, that dream that we've had, we've started to outwork it. Isn't it good? We're bringing hope to the Cherwell Valley. We're seeing transformation. We're seeing something start to outwork. Yeah, there might be a long way to go. There might be things that we're not quite right, things that we need to improve on. But we're seeing it happen. It's time to prepare. I believe God wants to give us bigger dreams beyond that. We're part of a group of churches. We're part of a charity called Oxfordshire Community Churches, but a larger group of churches called Advance, Salt and Light. And there was a phrase, a prophetic phrase that was used many years ago that said, Oxfordshire for Jesus. Some of you will have remembered that. Oxfordshire for Jesus. I believe it's time to move out of Oxfordshire. You know, we're going to plant more within the Cherwell Valley without a doubt. But God's calling us to step out. God's calling us to think bigger, that we dream of planting in other places. We want to plant in places like Milton Keynes. We want to plant in Bedford. We want to plant in Cambridge. We want to plant in Bath, or Bath, as you lot might say. We want to plant in other places. God wants to expand our vision. This isn't the end point. We want to be a people that continue to keep on dreaming and dreaming. In order to do that, we need to pray big. He can do way more than we can expect. Do you believe that? Jesus Christ can do way more than we can expect. We're just singing some songs there of the hope that Jesus brings, of him rescuing our lives. Jesus has vision for each and every one of us. He has a big vision. He didn't die on that cross and rise again for us to sit around and do nothing. He didn't do that, did he? He died on that cross because He wanted to see us thrive and flourish. He wanted us to take up the calling that each and every one of us has. That's what he died on that cross for. And so we need to pray big. We need to keep on asking. We want to, as we dream big, we want to create space for others. It means raising up more and more leaders. Our heart is that we see in every suburb, in every village, in every part, we want to see a community planted. Yeah? In Southwold, we want to see a community planted. Where Pete lives, I want to see a community planted on that estate. Where different ones of us live, we want to see communities planted. We expect that we're going to raise up more and more leaders. We want to make space for new things. We want to prioritize inviting others into various leadership positions. Let's be dream releasers rather than inhibitors. I know some of you think, "Oh, that's a bit grand and a bit big, maybe." That's okay. That's absolutely fine. Because we need everyone to play their different parts. If we all had vision way beyond our imaginations, we might not be quite going where we should be going. There's a part for each and every one of us to play. I believe God is rising up his army in these days, that we'll see the Cherwell Valley transformed and that we're going to go beyond. I believe that God wants to release each and every one of you to your dreams and your calling that he's given you. Someone said this phrase, that there's Sunday dreams and there's Monday morning dreams. We have a dream as a church to grow, to see transformation in this place and beyond. But we have a dream and a vision as a church to see each and every person flourish and outwork the dreams and callings on their lives. Some of you work in the teaching arena. We want to see you thrive and flourish in that area. Some of you work in the care sector. We want to see you released in those areas. We have vision for you. Some of you work in business. We want to see you thrive and flourish in business, that you bring God's kingdom there. That's what we've got vision for. A vision to dream big. Some of you aren't working anymore and are doing lots of other things. We have vision that you thrive in whatever you're doing. It says, in the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Matthew 25, we read about the parable of the talents. Some buried it, some saw twice, some etc., etc. There was an increase that went on. What are you dreaming of? What's God given you And what are you doing about it? God doesn't want us to be the people that bury our talents. I know in that story, talents was a literal money, but it's also our talents as well. God doesn't want us to bury the God-given talents that he's got. He wants to see them outworked in many ways. God gives me prophetic words and pictures and dreams, as he does many of you. And Vincent, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. You don't know what it is yet, do you? God says you're to be a dream releaser. I see you getting alongside people, encouraging them, raising them up, drawing them up to release them into the God-given visions that they've got, the God-given dreams that they've got. You've got a natural gift, a God-given gift that he's given you, that he wants to see you outwork that. That you to get alongside people and see them released into the kingdom. Pete, hope you don't mind me sharing, but I felt like God say, he knows your dreams. He knows the dreams that you've not yet seen come to fruition. He sees your faithfulness. He sees your heart. He says he's so proud of you. He says he hasn't forgotten. He hasn't forgotten those dreams that he's spoken to you about, those things that you haven't yet seen. And he wants to encourage you. He sees them. One day it will happen. One day there will be a release. One day things will line up that you're expecting to line up. There is a day coming where these dreams will happen. We've got to dream big, very big, but we've got to live in the now as well. Philippians 3, it says, forgetting what is behind, this is Paul speaking, forgetting what is behind, looking forward, I press on to reach the prize, which is heavenward. That's Paul writing. This is Paul that's saying, I forget what's behind me. When you think about that, forgetting what's behind Paul meant forgetting all those Christians that he'd already killed. That was his past. That's what he was. He was a Jew that was set out on destroying as many Christians as he possibly could. That took me a little bit by surprise. He's Paul saying, I forget my past. Forgetting the things that I've done wrong, forgetting the things that I shouldn't have done. I want to press on to what God now has for me. The same Paul that writes to those churches in which they would have lost people because of Paul. The same Paul that goes and visits those churches where they would have lost people because of him. Forgetting what is behind us and looking forwards. Someone said this phrase: are we going to live in future past or... No, I didn't say that. Are we going to live in the present past or are we going to live in the present future? You get what I'm saying? We can be in the now, in the present, and continually look to the past. Or we can live in the now, in the present, and look to the future. We can't change our past. We can't change the things that have already happened. They've already gone. But we can press on and look forwards. I believe God wants to release us today. Wants to release us to dreams and visions. Paul could have said, look at my past. Look at me, I can't do this. I'm full of shame. I'm full of sorrow. I killed many people. That's what he could have done. But he forgot what that was and he pressed on to what God has for him. Some of us might be thinking, look at my past. Look at the things that I've done. God wants to release you from those today. The things that are catching you out, the things that you think disqualify you, God says there is freedom today. Your past has gone, but there is a future. For some of us, we need to not get stuck in the now and the surroundings that we're in. Joseph's surroundings didn't stop him reaching the vision that God had for him. He was in some pretty dire surroundings at points. Sold into slavery, well, thrown in a pit first, then sold into slavery, then into jail. His surroundings weren't that great, yet it didn't stop him from becoming what God had called him to become. The situations that we face now shouldn't stop us from the visions that God has given us. We've been singing about a Jesus that came for each and every one of us. He has vision for you. Lastly, it's not a boastful thing, but an obedience and a faith that God has spoken. Joseph, he could have handled that a little bit differently, couldn't he? Hey guys, gather round, because you're all going to bow down to me. He could have handled that a bit differently. For some of you, you need to pick up the fact that it's not about boasting, but you do yourself an injustice by not saying the dreams and visions that God has given you. It's the God-given visions, the God-given dreams. That's what we want to see released. Not our own dreams. Not Middlesbrough winning the football. Not England winning the World Cup. Other teams are out there. It's the God-given dreams. We do a disservice to God and ourselves if we don't act on the things that He's given us.